Here we go, squad. Week 12, back on YouTube for the second straight week, and we will be for the entirety of the rest of the season. I'm Claudia Bellofatto here with Sia Nejad, Uncle Dave Richards, and Alex Propstarz Selesnick. Week 12 already. Show brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary. Uncle Dave, how you? Oh, Prop, you already got something. Okay.
I do. I just want to first congratulate my Uncle Dave, my beloved Uncle Dave, coming off of an excellent, undefeated week. Kudos to Dave. I know Dave has been working very hard behind the scenes, so great to see a wonderful result from a great man, also known as Uncle Dave. Also want to shout out two very close friends of mine very quickly who I believe are watching, Patrick and Mariah. Hello. Hope you guys are having a great day.
Patrick, Mariah, what's going on? Took the words right out of my mouth, Proppy. Uncle Dave, we knew it was coming. The big bounce back 4-0. How you feeling?
It feels nice, but I got a lot more work to do. And let's face it, we've all had a week where we've done well betting.
Yeah.
And you think you're invincible after a week like this. And you get, no matter what you put your money on, it's going to hit. That's a trap. That's what they want you to do. Don't do that. I'm not, here's the truth. I really tried my best to not change anything in my process. Stuck with players that I know are going to play a lot and do a lot. And somehow, some way, I still found a play on a player who isn't one of those stud players that I really like, and I can't resist this week. I've got 5 picks. It's the most I've had in a week this season. But I'm really trying to stay true to my process and hopefully just come away with another winning week. That's it. I'm not trying to, go undefeated. It's kind of bad, I think, that I've got 5 picks instead of 4. I don't even know if I like this, but I'm doing it.
No.
So let's go.
Have a little confidence, Dave. Come on. You're going to keep this rolling. And sometimes it's small wins. Sometimes you sweep the board. Sometimes Jacoby Brissett backs you up because everybody says you're crazy for going over 238.5. No Marvin Harrison Jr. Claudia, you're stupid. Blah, blah, blah. 452. Thank you, my guys. So sometimes it's just small wins. And I appreciate you guys for saying glad you feel better. I really don't, but I'm powering through and I could not miss a show with all of you. So happy that you're all here. Sia Proppy, anything you want to touch on, or shall we just move on to week 12?
Well, real quick. So what Dave said, I mean, it can be such a cyclical thing, but we do want to stick to our process. I went 0-3. The prior week, I also went 4-0, so it's one of those things where and I deserved 0-3 because one of my props was JJ McCarthy involved. It was a Justin Jefferson prop. So I kind of deserved that. I do want to point out though, that if you follow all of us on SportsLine, you know that I'm 3-0 since the 0-3. So we have our NFL props, but I had a play on Monday. I had 2 props yesterday. Both of them hit. So I encourage everybody to not just watch this show, but catch all the picks on SportsLine. Either way, 0-3 for the prop show. Unacceptable. I got to do better.
So ebbs and flows.
I've never had a losing week, so I'm not sure I can relate to you guys very much. So, I just know I've been over here at Propstarz HQ, but seriousness, I think Dave brought up an excellent point. You don't try to rethink things or reinvent the wheel when you have a losing week. You stick to the things that you know that you're good at, or that the categories where you've had success historically. When I've had losing weeks, that's typically what I lean on. I like to play unders a lot, so I find myself a good under, or I stick to a category. Let's say it's quarterback, passing props, or rushing props this season where I've had a lot of success, and I lean into that. So take things one pick at a time. Don't ever press. And there's going to be plenty of plays. I also wanted to point out real quickly, I love this slate. I have 5 picks as well as Dave. There's another handful of picks that I love as well that I might get on or put out to our subscribers at the conclusion of today. Tomorrow.
Alex is like, oh, you guys are having bad weeks. What is that like? In the distance past, I used to have those. All right, we do have a lot of picks, so let's get right into it. Good advice for sure. Uncle Dave, since you went 4-0, we're going to start with you. You're looking at Jared Goff under on pass attempts. Giants catching 12.5 here. Talk to me.
It's under 31.5 pass attempts, Claudia, and the juice is -110 at BetMGM. So I actually love this play all the way around. He's been over this in 4 games this year. 3 of them losses against Green Bay, against Minnesota, against Philadelphia. That was last week. And 1 win when they bounced back from their loss against Minnesota on a Sunday night game against Washington. He had 33 attempts. I think Goff is going to have a really good game. Is he going to have to throw the ball a ton? I'm thinking no. And we've seen it before from him when they're in these blowout situations, like against Tampa, Chicago, Cleveland, Cincinnati. That's all this year. We've seen him not have to throw a lot. He gets great numbers. Fantasy managers are happy. He's a must start this week. But 32 pass attempts is a number I just don't think he'll touch. This Giants pass defense isn't great, by the way, but their run defense stinks even more. So Detroit can get away with running a bunch in the game. And only one quarterback has thrown 32 or more times against the Giants this year in a game their team won by 4+ points. And that's Patrick Mahomes. And so I think that this is just a really good opportunity for Jared Goff to not have to do a lot of the heavy lifting. Lions bounce back after a bad loss last week, and he doesn't throw 32 times. He goes under 31.5, -110.
It is worth pointing out Dan Campbell now calling plays in Detroit, previously John Morton. As far as Goff is concerned, I agree with Dave. He's going to have very likely to have a very good game. From an efficiency standpoint, there's a receiver I love in this game, which we're going to get to shortly. But yeah, I think this Lions offense here is going to be very efficient. We've got a total of over 50 points in this game. Lions team total is over 30 points. So I expect this offense to be firing on all cylinders in what is a fantastic matchup for Detroit.
So, Claudia, I have a play that correlates with this play and the rationale that Dave just put out. The one thing I fear, and I would be on the under here too, is that because Dan Campbell is calling plays and because Dan Campbell is now at home in a bounce back spot and really looked flat last week, I could see him just doing a Dan Campbell thing and allowing Jared Goff to continue to throw so that they can get to like 50 points in sort of a pre-Thanksgiving statement, if you will. Again, I love Dave's play, but I worry about the Dan Campbell factor. But again, this play correlates with my play, my quarterback play pretty well.
Go ahead. Yeah. Let's hear it.
Let's do it. Jameis Winston, over 32.5 pass attempts at -127. You might find this at 33.5, which I also like. And you might find the completions. I'm trying to remember. I think it was at as low as 19.5 in some places, maybe 20.5. I don't love the efficiency from Jameis Winston on the road in Detroit. They're certainly going to get after him, but I do think in the short area, he is going to be able to get some Wan'Dale Robinson completions, maybe Hodgins. We know Darius Slayton, I think, is back. So Theo Johnson. I think the completions might be there, but I'd rather go with the attempts because, again, he's on the road. He was pretty erratic last week, probably should have thrown many more interceptions, but this is a passing game script for this New York Giants team. I don't see a situation where we have what we had last week with the Giants, which was a very competitive game against the Green Bay Packers where you saw Devin Singletary and Tyrone Tracy rush for 35 rushing attempts. Again, that's because the game was hanging in the balance until the very end. This isn't going to be that game. The Detroit Lions are favored by 10.5. I expect them to cover the spread, and I expect them to absolutely smash the New York Giants, which takes the running game largely out of it. By the second, third quarter, you're going to see a lot of pass attempts, probably a lot of incomplete pass attempts, but it'll be catch-up mode, and it'll be Jameis Winston throwing at least 33 times in this game.
That was actually a prop I was looking at. Go ahead.
You might see a lot of interceptions, too, from Jameis. So I like the way that you're thinking on that, Sia. You brought up an interesting point as it relates to the Lions, though. They've got this game on Sunday, and then they're the early Thanksgiving Day game. That's where they always are. Mm-hmm. Dan Campbell might go full pass mode like you're talking about. If one of his guys gets hurt in a blowout win in the fourth quarter when they're playing on Thursday, he will never hear the end of it. There's a chance that they pull some of these starters by the time we get to the mid-fourth quarter, if the Lions are up 36-3, something like that.
Here's the thing, though, and Meg Schott brought this up with me and Mike McClure on Fantasy Football Today, DFS, yesterday. Check that show out. That week 17, that was a nothing game for the Detroit Lions because everything mattered to Detroit in week 18. I believe it was against the Vikings. And in week 17, everybody was like, well, he's probably not going to roll out the starters. Well, guess what? He rolled out the starters, high scoring game, and it was a back and forth. So it's just one of those things where, and Meg was talking about this, the mentality of Dan Campbell is like right here, right now, like just pour it on. And I worry.
And they put up 9 points last week. They kind of have to come out and show us something. Like, I know everyone wants to crap on the Giants, but the Giants keep games close, whether you like it or not. Somehow they do.
They had the misfortune of facing an absolutely unbelievable defense last week, and that will not be the case this week, playing another team from the NFL.
For sure.
So kudos to whatever team that was.
I can't remember who it was. It's weird.
Proppy, I think Sia was the one who mentioned JJ McCarthy off the top, backing him. You were going to fade him. You're going to go under on passing yards. And it's all right. I mean, you brought it up in this game against the Packers.
Yeah, it's a low number too, 191. I think it's 187 on most major books. I'm comfortable playing it down to 183. Sia mentioned this. JJ McCarthy is not bad. He is historically bad. He has been absolutely putrid this season. Dead last in EPA per dropback, and then the eye test. This guy is not an NFL caliber starting quarterback or anywhere close to it, even though it's a small sample size. I'm comfortable making that statement right now. I do not think JJ McCarthy is going to develop into a starting caliber NFL quarterback. Even the great Kevin O'Connell, who's been a quarterback whisperer, has been unable to coax even average quarterback play out of this guy. So I am not impressed whatsoever with JJ McCarthy. Then we couple that in this matchup against Green Bay. What is Green Bay's defense good at? Coverage and the pass rush. How do you hide a bad quarterback? You run the football. As a result as well, Green Bay's defense is a run funnel. Their run defense isn't great. So I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of passing volume in this game for this team. I just think it's going to require really Minnesota to be trailing from a significant deficit. And even then, you do not want JJ McCarthy dropping back 35 to 40 times. But this is a very difficult matchup against a very good Green Bay defense. Conversely, Green Bay's offense, they play hyper conservative and very slow, and they do not shy away from competitive game scripts, meaning I do believe that this game is going to be within a possession or two, and Green Bay is totally comfortable with that. I think we're going to see very minimal passing volume from both sides, but particularly for the Vikings, especially if this game is close. So, again, really difficult matchup for JJ McCarthy. One checks all the boxes, even though it is a low number.
And Matt is letting us know this was bet down to 186.5 at some shops. So certainly shop around. If you like that under, go with the higher number. Sia?
So my only issue with this, and again, I'm not in a position going 0-3 last week to question anything Proppy is doing, but JJ McCarthy is so bad and Kevin O'Connell is so good that I do wonder if he properly schemes Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and Aaron Jones in space. And so my worry here is yards after the catch potentially. This is a great Green Bay Packers defense. They will probably just, it's probably going to be tough sledding. It's probably going to be a lot of like trying to lean on the running game and the defense. But one of my leans, for example, is Aaron Jones, whether it's receiving yards, which I think is 15.5, or his receptions at 2.5. I could see a scenario where, Justin Jefferson finally has a game and breaks one in the short area. And that could maybe be a problem for this. But fading anything JJ McCarthy related, I fully endorse at this point.
Okay, so it's not a showdown. Some folks are asking.
No.
I'd love to for
no, it's not a showdown.
Proppy's like, please, showdown. No, Sia doesn't want to. I think we're all sort of on the same page here. And I'm seeing the conversation around the fact that JJ McCarthy shouldn't be a starter. Some people are saying, others are saying you guys should give him a little slack. He's a rookie. That's fine. We're not the coaches. We're just betting. We're just telling you what to do with your money. And right now, JJ McCarthy does not look like a viable starter. So we'll go under. And a reminder, if you guys have questions with fantasy, Uncle Dave is here to answer those. If you guys have any other players we haven't mentioned, we're doing passing now. We'll get to receiving, then rushing. Please do mention those. I'll keep an eye on the comments and try to bring them up. But for now, let's talk about Drake May and all of the chatter around this and that. First of all, Drake May doesn't watch your show. He doesn't care what you say about him because guess what? They're 9-2. They're going to win the East. They could win the AFC. We'll see. This week, they're taking on a terrible Bengals defense. Now, Joe Burrow, if he does play, which I don't think that would be smart of them, but apparently he looks great. If he does play, it changes this game. It gives us an even better game script. Either way, I'm going over his passing yards. 254.5. Even with the big blowout wins, he's cashed this. Even in the games where he's been a little sloppy, where the sacks were an issue, where the fumbles were an issue, he still cashed this. He's cashed this over in all but one of the last 7 games, in all but 3 of 11 this season. He's averaging just under 258. And he's facing a Bengals defense allowing the second most attempts, over 264 yards. And for everybody giving him all of this hate, he could be the first quarterback since Drew Brees to lead the NFL in both completion percentage and passing yards. And I know he's going to come into this game with so much fuel and fire. I'm going over 254.5 passing yards. Before we move on to receiving, anybody else want to glaze? Yes, please, Proppy.
Bengals defense, 32nd in defensive passing DVOA, 32nd in EPA allowed per dropback, 31st in success rate, 29th in coverage grade. This Bengals defense is absolutely atrocious. I like this spot, especially if Joe Burrow suits up. Should be a good game environment for Drake May, who could absolutely go bananas and shred him. And then there's a pass catcher on who I like a lot, and we'll get to that later.
Okay. Proppy stamp of approval. I do want to move this along a little quicker. Let's come to you, Sia, with Matthew Stafford looking at over pass completions against Tampa.
Yeah, I'll just be pretty quick about this one. And by the way, all these write-ups and all these picks, at least for me, and I know sometimes I'm late on some of this stuff, but is on SportsLine, just so everybody knows, including this pick, Matthew Stafford over 22.5 pass completions. Pretty juicy, just like the other one, minus 128. The reason it's juicy is because in some places it's 23.5, which I also like. I just obviously prefer the 22.5 in this market. Here's the thing about Matthew Stafford. If you look at, like, let's say the 2 of the last 3 games, he's actually eclipsed this, but barely. He's had 24 completions in 2 of the last 3. So that's a little misleading. When you look at his total pass attempts over the last, I'm ballparking at 4 or 5 games, you're not seeing a ton of volume. But a lot of that is because of game script, where the Rams have just been blowing teams out or just have had comfortable leads. And a lot of that is matchup related. Like, you only saw 15 completions last week against Seattle, but that's because of the packages. And I found this out after the game, that basically Seattle was playing nickel package to protect against the pass and basically daring the Rams to run, which of course they did, not super effectively, although we saw Kyron Williams break off a 34-yard rush. But it was a lot of Blake Corum, it was a lot of Kyron Williams. We're not going to have that here. First of all, it's going to be a completely different matchup where you're going to see a lot of blitz, a lot of aggression, and Matt Stafford handles that very, very well. And at the end of the day, this is a very hard Tampa Bay Bucs team to run against. Even last week when the Bills put up 44 points, that wasn't because of the running game. And to the extent it was Josh Allen running on them, not James Cook, who averaged, I think, less than 3.5 yards per carry. So at the end of the day, I think Matt Stafford's going to have to pass. And really, we're not climbing a tall ladder here in terms of getting to 23 completions when you look at how efficient Matt Stafford is likely to be against this Bucs back end and blitz. So give me Matt Stafford over 22.5 pass completions.
All right, 1 over, and then we got 1 more under with Kirk Cousins, Uncle Dave.
I like the under on 207.5 passing yards for Kirk Cousins, minus 114 if you can find it. So far this season, Cousins has had weak velocity on his throws, hasn't challenged downfield much. He's been very sensitive to pass rush pressure. Cousins averaged 5.6 yards per pass attempt versus Miami. And that was actually sort of good for him. It was even worse than that last week. To go over this line at that average, he would need to throw 37 passes. I have a hard time believing that he's going to do that, especially since the Falcons can just dial up a lot of runs against New Orleans. Saints giving up 4.5 yards per carry in their last 4, 5 rushing touchdowns to running backs. They've got that Bijan Robinson guy and that Tyler Algier dude, and those guys can handle it for Atlanta. I don't think the Saints will be able to stop the run. That takes pressure off of Cousins having to throw. We know that Drake London is not going to play in this game. So who's left for him to throw to? It's the remaining shell of Darnell Mooney, and I guess I can say the remaining shell of Kyle Pitts too. Neither of these guys have really gotten it done in a major way for Atlanta this year, and now they're going to be held back by Kirk Cousins and his inefficiencies as a thrower. And here's a wacky one. The Saints have, I'm going to use air quotes here, held 3 of the past 4 quarterbacks that they've faced to 172 or fewer yards. And that's because their opponents have just run on them, or they found other ways to score on them, defensive touchdowns in the case of Tampa Bay. I'd play this one down to like 203.5, just as long as the juice is all right. You don't want to overpay for this one, but Cousins shouldn't have a great game, under 207.5 passing yards at minus 114.
And everybody in the comments saying, Kirk Cousins sucks, this isn't that. Remember, I don't think the team's very happy to have him under center either. They just didn't have a choice because Michael Penix Jr. is banged up.
No, they had a choice, Claudia. They had the choice to not pay him a ton of money once upon a time.
Now they don't. At the beginning of the season,
now they don't.
They already paid him. You might as well throw him out there.
Well, I mean, what else are they going to do? They don't have anybody else with Penix to go with.
Rushing props. Jonathan Taylor, Proppy, you're going under on rush attempts. It's high, 20 in the hook. Oh, Proppy, you're muted.
Unmute. I am fading the great Jonathan Taylor. Not for the faint of heart here, but I'll explain why I like the play quite a bit. So Jonathan Taylor having a historically great season, obviously no doubt about that, but 21 carries even for Jonathan Taylor is a large number. He's eclipsed this just 3 times in 10 games this year, averaging just shy of 19 rushing attempts on the season. But I just think this matchup against Kansas City really doesn't lend itself to a lot of rushing volume. First and foremost, I know it's Steve Spagnuolo. He's going to try to limit Jonathan Taylor. He's the engine of this high-powered Colts offense. When you make them one-dimensional and you force Daniel Jones to beat you, that's when we've seen some chinks in the armor here. So I think it's a tougher matchup than it may appear against the Chiefs defense that has been playing well. Conversely, the Chiefs offense is very capable of pushing the Colts to where they might not be as balanced as they want to be. It's not a mistake or an accident that opposing running backs have the fewest rushing attempts against Kansas City this season. So again, coming off of a 35 touch performance last week where he handled 32 rushing attempts, this number is a couple ticks too big. Yes, I'm comfortable playing it at 19.5 where it is at most major books, but I think this is a great spot to fade Jonathan Taylor specifically in this category.
All right, there you
I
have it.
do lean under on his rushing yards as well if you don't have access to the attempts.
Okay. And I will say, yeah, most at 19.5 are on like minus 105. So make sure you shop for that. Quickly on that Falcons game, somebody asked Kirk Schroyer, said Tyler Algier over 25.5 rush yards. A very low number, but of course, Bijan is the one taking the bulk. Anybody have thoughts there?
I like the over. I think that we do see the running backs get a hefty workload here, and I think that there will be a lot of rushing in this game all the way around. Not just Bijan and Tyler Algier, but also Alvin Kamara. Kamara's number seemed a little high to me, so I didn't want to chase that, but I took a long look at Algier. I would say I lean a little bit in favor of the over.
I like it quite a bit, actually. Yeah, I think this game is going to, the path to victory for the Falcons is not having Kirk Cousins drop back 32 plus times. So, yeah, I think this is a spot where they're going to put the ball in Bijan's hands a lot, but you also don't want to overwork Bijan, and they have another competent running back in Tyler Algier. So this does make sense that he will get some work in this game.
See any thoughts there?
Not really. I mean, I think Tyler Algier is I think that's a pretty efficient number. I would lean to the over, but I do like the original play of Jonathan Taylor's under rushing. Yeah. I think that's an interesting game with that 3.5. I think, Indy coming off a bye, probably people see that hook and they're like, I think I got to take Indy here. I could see this one getting away from Indy just because of the situation Kansas City is in and because of the fact that they're at home and Daniel Jones not great outside. Not that they'll really cut back on Jonathan Taylor's carries, like in the third quarter, for example, but it could be a situation where in the fourth quarter, you see a little less Jonathan Taylor than a normal Indianapolis Colts game.
The Colts offense is absolutely humming when he's running the football effectively and they're able to take advantage of the RPO and play action. That's when the Colts offense is really firing on all cylinders. Steve Spagnuolo, very good at making opposing offenses one-dimensional, kind of Bill Belichick-esque, taking away whatever the offense does best. So I do think it's going to be a concerted effort to slow down Jonathan Taylor in this matchup.
All right. A much more digestible number is 15.5. That's with Ashton Genty. Dave, tell us why you're going over here against Cleveland.
Well, we know last week was a total disaster for the Raiders. 6 carries for Genty. It was a blowout loss against a much improved Dallas Cowboys defense. It was as if the Raiders knew going in that this Cowboys run defense was going to crush their run game, and they just had to throw just to have a chance to stay in that game. We had the under on Genty's yardage, by the way. But this week, I think the Browns' run defense, they might be able to limit Genty and limit his efficiency. But the Browns' offense with Shadur Sanders doesn't figure to put up as many points. So the Raiders can actually lean into their run game if they want to. Genty has 17 or more rush attempts in 5 games this year. 4 of them were competitive games. The Raiders either won or had a chance to win. And that includes games against tough defenses like the Broncos, the Patriots, and the Commanders back when the Commanders were healthy and their defense was actually pretty good. In his other 5 games with 14 or fewer rush attempts, the Raiders lost them by 34, 11, 31, 17, and 1 point. There was one close game in there. I don't think they're going to lose this one by 11 points to the Browns. And I wouldn't expect a ton of explosive runs by Genty, but this Cleveland defense saw 18 carries by Derrick Henry last week, 21 by Breece Hall the week before, 24 by the amazing Patriots running back duo the game before that. Teams don't care that the Browns defense is good, because when the Browns offense can't score, that allows these offenses to just keep running the football. And by the way, not for nothing, the Browns gave up 5.6 yards per carry to the Ravens last week, 3.9 to the Jets, 4.6 to the Patriots, 5.4 yards per carry to the Dolphins in week 7. It's not like they're the Seahawks or the Eagles or anything like that. I think Genty gets work, especially since last week he didn't. This is an easy pivot for the Raiders. Over 15.5 rush attempts. I got it at -102. I would play this up to -120. I think we'll see Genty busy.
I like this look quite a bit.
Me
So
too.
this Browns defense, while they do have a good run defense, they also have an excellent pass rush, and they do not want Geno Smith dropping back a ton and having Myles Garrett and company peel their ears back. They have an elite pass rush paired with a good run defense, but with Shedeur Sanders under center and this Browns offense and this total, this is going to be a game where you see a lot of running, especially from the Raiders, especially coming off of just having 6 rushing attempts last week. So I love the look on volume here, not betting on efficiency. I think this is a great look from Dave.
Claudia, I just have to point out that the point Dave made about what the Browns are going to be able to do on offense is so critical to why I love this bet so much, because you're just not going to have a situation, unless the defense scores, which is possible really for any defense, you're not going to have a situation where the Raiders are incentivized to like revert to the passing game only. I think they're either going to be winning or it's going to be neutral. And in that case, just like Proppy said, you may as well rush the ball, because what you don't want to do is put Geno in a position to turn the ball over.
Yeah, you gave away your top receiver. So, I mean, just give it to the guy in the backfield. I agree there. What I'm feeling very strongly about this week, and then I got worried because the line felt a little bit too low, was on Derrick Henry. For rush attempts, it's only at 17.5 against the Jets. The Jets just lost their best run defender in Quinnen Williams, the league's best, really. He had the best run grade at his position, 99th percentile in run stop rate. They were already allowing over 24 attempts a game, the 6th most. And now they're facing a guy in Derrick Henry who's currently 15th all-time in career rushing, 82 more yards. He'll pass 4 Hall of Famers on that all-time list. I don't mind the yards, but the attempts, again, just felt very low. He's cashed it in 5 straight, this line. He's averaging over 20 in that stretch. And they're 13.5-point favorites, so the volume should be there. I don't really think they're going to sit them in this scenario. So Derrick Henry, 17.5. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on this. I went to look at projections later, and they were all higher than 17.5. So I'm not sure why it's so low. Proppy, any thoughts here?
Always thoughts. My one concern would be a lopsided game script where Baltimore has shown a penchant to essentially take the foot off the gas. And when they get to the third and let's say they're up 21 points heading into midway through the third quarter, in that scenario, we could see it. But I think it's a good look. I think that there's, again, we haven't really seen Baltimore recently absolutely do what they did last year, where they were up 20 points heading into the fourth quarter. So it does make sense. As long as this game's competitive, we're going to see a very healthy dose of Henry.
Claudia, I don't appreciate you bringing in a Derrick Henry prop after I lost my prop last week on under 76.5 rushing yards. And if you all recall, I said, listen, Derrick Henry, of course, he can break a long one and that can crush the bet, but I'm just betting against that as well. I probably should have just put both bets out there, some sort of under attempts and longest rush, but that bet was looking really good. And then Derrick Henry did the Derrick Henry thing and had one long rush, and he went 54 yards, and I lost my bet. That was classic Derrick Henry.
Yeah, there's no malice there, Sia, of course. But also, I just wouldn't bet under on Derrick Henry. That's on you. You have 2 leans this week. Tell us who.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just, I'll probably just go over one of them here, or I mean, I'll just mention them. One of them I already mentioned was Aaron Jones in the receiving department, whether you want to take receptions or his receiving yards, which is reasonably low. And again, this is a lot of that's predicated on JJ McCarthy giving him some easy throws, which is why I talked about some of the yak with Justin Jefferson, maybe Jordan Addison. If I'm Kevin O'Connell, I'm setting JJ McCarthy up not to screw it up, which is like wide receiver screens and quick, flares to his receivers and running backs out of the backfield. The other one, though, is Javonte Williams. The problem with Javonte Williams and his under against this Philadelphia Eagles defense that is very much new and improved, especially as it relates to the Cowboys, because Jalen Carter didn't play against the Cowboys in week 1 because he decided to spit on Dak Prescott. Not only do you have him in this game, but you obviously got Quinnen Williams, like you mentioned, and Jalen Phillips from Miami. This defense is stout, so I like Javonte Williams unders. The problem is the line, I think, is down from like 72 to 66, 67 in some places. Feel like I missed the value there. I did consider, however, his longest rush under 14.5. The problem I have with that is the volume is still going to be there. The Cowboys are at home. I just think I'm kind of flirting with disaster a little bit on that one, but my lean is Javonte Williams under longest rush, 14.5 yards.
And Nathan's asking if that's official play or lean. It sounds like
lean.
Both of those were
That is
lean,
just
right?
a lean. Yeah, just a lean. Yep.
Okay. All right. I think I misspoke at the top. I said we're going to go receiving then rushing, but we went opposite. So now we're going to talk about receiving. Proppy, I see you have a ton here. So give me your strongest play first.
Strongest play first is going to be Romeo Doubs under 4.5 receptions here. First and foremost, big number, 5 receptions for Romeo Doubs. Only have done this in a couple of games here. And again, we're talking about a Green Bay offense that grinds clock at the slowest rate in the NFL. Are also as balanced and run heavy as any team in the league. And by the way, they're facing a Vikings defense that has been a massive run funnel, coupled with they also double team at the highest rate, or one of the highest rates in the league. Romeo Doubs has been Jordan Love's favorite target without Tucker Kraft, or maybe 1A and 1B with Christian Watson. So it's just a really tough game environment, especially if we're looking at volume-based approaches. 5 receptions. I just do not think there's going to be a lot of Jordan Love dropbacks. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. The game total certainly indicates that as well. So I just think we'll see limited passing volume, and there's just a bevy of pass catchers for this Green Bay offense. Dante Wick's back as well. They're using 3 tight ends. And again, just it's a tall order for Romeo Doubs to get 5 receptions here. Would you like my other receiving props right now as well, Claudia?
Let's answer this Drew question first, since we just touched on this Falcons Saints game. Chris Olave, 64.5. Talking about this Falcons secondary brutal, coming off a 100-yard game, but he's only missed this once. He just missed this in another game, but he's hit it consistently over the last few weeks. Any thoughts on Chris Olave?
I love Chris Olave. I've been beating the drum all year. He's a massive positive regression candidate. We've seen him bear fruit when it comes to that in recent weeks. The quarterback also, Tyler Shook, not terrible as we thought as well. Seems to have solid chemistry with Olave. Yeah. The number has ticked up, however. Olave was sitting in that 53 to 55 range for the majority of the season, now upwards of 63.5, 64.5. So I think the line is definitely more efficient. It's certainly adjusted here. Falcons' pass defense hasn't been great. So, yeah, I would lean over, just not something I am rushing out to play. I just don't know what kind of game environment this is going to be. I think both teams are going to run the football, frankly. So I just don't think it's the optimal game environment to see a spike week from Olave.
Okay, sweet. And Danny Brasco saying I got burnt on Woody Marks receptions last night. If you guys didn't hear the soliloquy and the soapbox that Alex was on last week, that's on you guys. Running backs catching, we don't like it. I know probably you have
Danny
2.
Brasco.
We love you, Danny. I know you have 2 more, but Dave, talk to me about AJ Brown.
Yeah, I don't like what I've been seeing from AJ Brown. I'm not sure the Eagles do either. And this is a tough matchup for him just based on a couple of factors. So I'm taking the under on his yardage. I found it at 62.5 at BetMGM at -115, but I would take it considerably lower than this if possible. First, there is that matchup. Last week, Dallas got both safeties, Donovan Wilson and Malik Hooker back. Backup cornerback Siobhan Ravel was back. And of course, their entire defensive line got better with Quinn and Williams helping them. They delivered 34 pass rush pressures against the Raiders. That's crazy good. And it's the Raiders, but their offensive line was really banged up. Philadelphia's offensive line is a little bit banged up too. We know that Hurts has been shaky as a passer really the last 2 games since their bye. But with Lane Johnson out, his completion rate this year is at 57.6%. His completion rate for his career without Lane Johnson on the field is 57.4%. Obviously, that's going to impact Brown. There's also been a real tendency that's developed this year with Brown against zone coverage compared to man-to-man coverage. We saw a story from the Philadelphia Inquirer about it. This is something that we noticed much earlier in the season. Here's the deal. When he faces man coverage, he gets a target 35% of the time. That's huge. That's great. But against zone coverage, it's down to 19.2%. That's not bad, but it's not high. And 9.4 yards per catch against zone coverage as well. Dallas typically plays zone coverage. They did a lot of that last week against Vegas. They did that in their first game post-bye with fresh defenders on the field. They did that in week 1 against Philadelphia. And they also played at least 75% of zone on their snaps in each of their past 3 games against Jalen Hurts. And then there's Brown himself. We know he hasn't been the same guy this year, but he specifically hasn't looked like himself since he sat out week 8 against the Giants. Those last 2 games, 6.9 yards per catch. For the season, his yards after catch per reception is down to 2.8 this year compared to 5.1 last year. And you think, well, it's only 2.3 yards. Dude, this is yards after the catch. And if you multiply that with all the catches he normally gets, that's terrible. He's not as elusive as he used to be, not as explosive as he used to be. And I think the Eagles know it, and they're calling plays based on it. That's why you're seeing him run a bunch of hitches and slants, and you're not seeing him targeted downfield. He's not outrunning anybody down the field. He had 7 catches last week, 7. 3 were against man coverage. He didn't even have 50 yards in the game. So I'd sprinkle a little bit on the under on his catches too, because it's plus money, but I'd play this down to at least 57.5. I am very worried about A.J. Brown coming through with a big finish this year. Under against Dallas, 62.5 at -115.
Nathan's begging for a showdown. Are you gonna back Dave Proppy or?
It's an interesting one. This number has ticked down quite a bit. Worth mentioning, I did see it around 56.5 on DraftKings prior to the start of the show. As far as A.J. Brown, calling him cooked at this point, I know Dave didn't say it that it was that drastic, but I still believe that A.J. Brown is a top-end wide receiver. I don't think he's suddenly fallen off a cliff. I credit Kevin Patolo of this Eagles offense and just this Jalen Hurts has been unable to be effective throwing the ball down the field. Sure, Brown is used to a very healthy target share and being a highly productive wide receiver. So we're seeing some of those sideline outbursts, comments he's making. But as an aside, I actually think he's a good buy low in Dynasty. I think he either gets traded in the offseason or this is going to be his bottom, essentially, from a value standpoint. But this is a good again, Dave mentioned the zone versus man here, but this Cowboys back end has not been very good. And this could be a sneaky shootout here. So I don't know if I'm willing to go showdown. Let's go showdown, actually.
Oh.
I knew you were talking yourself into it.
Let's agree on a number, though, because it is under 60 on most major.
Well, BetMGM, our sponsor, has it at 61.5. I'm just throwing that out there.
I got it at
the closest
62.5
thing to his number.
like an hour ago.
Let's say 60.5.
Sure.
It's gonna be a showdown.
Yes, Ben, I have not heard
Graphic
that
is back.
Oh, long time. Ben, play that one more time.
Yeah, one more.
It's gonna be a showdown.
Oh, this is good.
That was my first time hearing it.
Oh,
It's
okay.
It is that's like some SportsLine lore right there, Claudia. Many a showdowns between Sia and I, Uncle Dave and Sia. So happy to get another one now that we're in the YouTube streets where I absolutely love being. So we should come up with something extra juicy for this showdown, Dave.
Hey, I did want to point out, because BetMGM, if you want to take the A.J. Brown under, they have the best number right now at 61.5. But BetMGM, if you like Devontae Smith, and I believe it was Jeremy Rogers in the chat that said he likes Devontae Smith. I almost came to this show with a Devontae Smith prop, and he's in that same range as AJ Brown. Right now he's actually a little lower in the mid 50s. However, again, BetMGM, if you like the over, has the best number on Devontae Smith. I believe they have it as low as 52.5. It is a little juicy at minus 130. I like that, but if you wanted to take less juice and take 54.5, for example, at a regular juice number like minus 110, I would lean to Devontae over AJ Brown. I just didn't make it an official play.
Same. And he's been their zone beater. And just for the record, I do not think that AJ Brown is washed. I think he's playing hurt right now. Remember, he missed that game in week 8. And before that game, he actually looked a little bit better. He had some big games before then. I just think he's not at 100%. He's trying to gut it out. And I agree with you, Proppy, on the play calling. I can't believe you wanted a showdown, knowing how bad the play calling has been in Philadelphia. I feel like your fandom is getting in the way. You said something juicy for the bet. So I'm thinking like a big, juicy cheesesteak goes to the victor of this player prop.
Done and done, because nothing gets me more excited than a big, juicy cheesesteak. I will have a cheesesteak from the Philadelphia area. Nothing. Very this world, maybe slot machines, that's pretty much it, and Pokemon cards. But yeah, very few things will get me more excited than a big juicy cheesesteak. So I will personally have a cheesesteak sent to you from one of the cheesesteak providers in the greater Philadelphia Bucks County area.
Done deal. That's the bet.
Where I hail from.
I'm so glad that I got to see my first real showdown. We're going to call that our first real showdown because the network didn't feel like it. And I will just say, when it comes to this Eagles passing game, I would stay away from it. It's been 3 straight weeks. Jalen Hurts hasn't even reached 200 passing yards yet. I would just look to other receivers or go under like Uncle Dave's doing on AJ Brown. Sia, talk to me about who you like this week when it comes to receiving.
So I dropped this pick out on the early edge this morning, and I started the take with, you're not going to like this. It's Adonai Mitchell, 31.5 receiving yards. There's 2 reasons I like this play, and it's the second reason that's more compelling than the first. I kind of like the over 31.5 receiving yards, but what I like more with a guy that can get plenty of separation and speed downfield and hopefully not drop the ball before he gets to the end zone is the idea of playing him 40 plus, 50 plus, I don't know, maybe even 60 plus. This is a negative game script against a Ravens defense that plays a lot of man coverage. And Adonai Mitchell, I believe, and we're speculating a little bit that he's the wide receiver 1. He's certainly a guy that was utilized last week. They went out and got him from Indianapolis. And by the way, if you listen to the OC talk about him after last week's game, he was gushing about Adonai Mitchell. Absolutely loves the guy. It was really cool to kind of hear the OC praise him in the way he did. I think we're going to see some Mason Taylor. We're going to see some John Mechie. I like his over 24.5 receiving yards. And I think we're going to see some Adonai Mitchell. And here's the best part. No Justin Fields. Tyrod Taylor's not a top 20 quarterback in this league, but he is a better quarterback than Justin Fields. And again, in a negative game script, we already talked about Derrick Henry and potentially pulling him early and all of those things. I think Tyrod is going to be good enough to get Adonai Mitchell the ball among others. 31.5 receiving yards is not much, especially for a guy that can get it in one singular catch. I like the latter here.
I mean, if he can just throw for 100 yards, all 3 of their top pass catchers can go over their
that's right
receiving lines. Yeah, these are very low numbers. I certainly think they're more than capable of all going over.
Mm-hmm. All right. Buckets, we see you. Shout out. Proppy, you got 2 more. Let's go through both of them because we should wrap this up soon.
All right. Well, I teased this one. 2 of them I actually teased. And they pair nicely with some of the quarterback props that we talked about. And let's start with Amon-Ra St. Brown to go over 77 or 76.5 receiving yards against the Giants. Amon-Ra St. Brown against man coverage has been absolutely unbelievable. The yards per route run is over 4, which is just an absolutely elite mark. He's even better than that, though, against play action. And this Giants defense not only plays man coverage at an extremely high rate, they are very vulnerable and susceptible to play action. So this is just a mouth-watering matchup for Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is the clear focal point of this Detroit passing offense. Sans Sam Laporta Florida, who is on injured reserve, just funneling targets. He accounted for a 20% target share in that offense. So that's even more potential work, in my opinion, for Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I love this spot for them. If the Giants can push Detroit, which in my opinion is possible, I don't know if I'm willing to say it's likely, but considering, again, a 50-plus point total, Detroit's team total over 30 points, that's where you can get a lot of information. As a side note, is when you look at game totals, because oftentimes those are the game environments you want to attack. This is a relatively cheap piece when we're talking about a number one option as good as the Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He has massive upside in this game. He could go thermonuclear, as I like to say, if the Giants are a willing dance party, but I think he's a great bet. This number is way closer to his floor than his ceiling in this highly efficient offense, which I expect to bounce back. And then another guy paired to Drake May, who we talked about earlier, who has a fantastic matchup. Thank you, Claudia, against this Bengals defense, as I laid out. 32nd in EPA per drop back, 32nd in defensive passing DVOA. Stephon Diggs over 54.5 receiving yards, coming off of last week. 89% route participation. He has finally emerged as that every down wide receiver in this New England offense. He was seen between 50 and 60% through the first 8 weeks of the season, but 90%, nearly 89% last week. Prior to that, 78%. He also has, I believe, 20 targets the last 2 games as well. He was double teamed a ton last week and was still heavily targeted by Drake May. Just gets an exceptional matchup. Even better if Joe Burrow suits up. But love me some Stephon Diggs, and I'm on St. Brown.
All right, and I obviously love that because I'm on Drake May, so his top weapon for sure I'd be going over. I'm going to go back to this Eagles-Cowboys game with George Pickens. I'm going to go over on 65.5, and I know you look to week 1, Eagles defense did limit him, but that was the fewest. That was the fewest targets he had seen, the fewest yards. That was his worst game. It was also his first game with Dak and with this offense, so you have to take that into consideration, and I know the Eagles defense has looked a lot better. They're second best in DVOA against the number 1 wide receiver, but they're bottom half against the number 2, and they're allowing the 5th most targets a game to the number 2. And I know George Pickens is on a career year and he has wide receiver 1 numbers, but CeeDee Lamb still does exist, which helps to stretch the defense and helps us get to the over here. He's only 5 catches away to tie his career high right now. Some extra motivation there. And he's averaging over 90 a game. He's leading the team in deep targets. He's cashed this line in all but 2 of 10 games. So I know you want to look at that week 1 matchup. You want to look at the Eagles defense improving and say it's an under game, but when this offense and the passing game in particular is moving, they're really moving, and George Pickens is benefiting. So I'm going to go over on 65.5, Proppy.
Throw week 1 out the window, Claudia. I also want to mention you misspoke when you said that he's the number 2, because this Cowboys passing offense is able to support 2 wide receiver ones.
Sure, yeah.
Which has been absolutely phenomenal all season long. Very healthy target share. Considering the Eagles have been a little bit vulnerable on the outside, on the back end too. I don't think it's nearly the terrible matchup that it may appear. George Pickens has been great. You're getting his numbers significantly lower than CeeDee Lamb. I like this quite a bit.
I don't know where y'all are finding 3.5 catches. I'm seeing up to 5.5. If it was 3.5, I would absolutely
It
snatch
could be
that.
for an alt line in a parlay or a same game parlay.
Yeah. Then I for sure would go over there. We got one more, right? Dave, TJ Hawk.
Sure. TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah.
And this is the one that I'm going to call this a half unit play. So the reason why is because think about all the players that we've talked about on today's show. I mean, superstars from Jared Goff to players we know like AJ Brown, even the legendary Adonai Mitchell. I mean, we've really hit on legends in the National Football League. And I don't know if Hawkinson is up to that same level. So it makes me a little nervous to go with him, but I'm taking the over on 24.5 yards at -115. And I started the research on this when I looked into Quay Walker being doubtful for the Packers in their matchup against the Vikings. This is one of their best run-stopping linebackers, and he's one of their other guys that they use in coverage. So I thought, all right, if he's not going to play, do the Vikings try and take advantage of that? Is there something that they might have done in the past to take advantage of that? And sure enough, Minnesota attacked Green Bay's zone coverage last year with TJ Hawkinson. Hawkinson played in one game, 6 targets, 5 catches, 68 yards, a touchdown. And listen, it wasn't with J.J. McCarthy under center. It was with Sam Darnold, but it was still a great game, and it was still utilizing him against this Green Bay Packers defense. And he's been kind of out of the picture in 2 of his last 3 games. But if the Vikings want to settle down their young quarterback, using Hawkinson is more than an option. It's what they should do. And they did exactly that, not in the second half of last week, not in the fourth quarter of last week, but literally their last drive of the game when they needed to score. We saw TJ Hawkinson get 3 targets, catch 2 passes, get 32 yards, and it helped them set up their touchdown that put them ahead with less than a minute to play. It was the only time in the game J.J. McCarthy looked like he knew what he was doing for more than like a play here, a play there. Here's one other thing, and this helped me go over the top on doing a prop on somebody who isn't a big name guy. J.J. McCarthy has a 20% target per route run rate to TJ Hawkinson when they play zone coverage this year. And predictably, that's 3rd best among the Vikings principals. But it drops to 2.4% when they face man coverage. Packers play a lot of zone coverage. They're going to need to play a little bit more of it if they want to try and limit the upside and the smash plays that Jefferson and Jordan Addison can still deliver. You don't want to see those guys against man coverage. So that means that there's going to be some check down opportunities for TJ Hawkinson. This is a low number. 9 tight ends have had at least 25 yards against Green Bay this year, including 3 who did so on just 4 targets. And that includes Theo Johnson last week. It's a low number. TJ Hawkinson should be able to get over 25 yards.
Yep. Tight end is a struggling quarterback's best friend. Let's get to our best bets. We got a recap for everybody. Dave's going to look to continue this hot streak. Went 4-0 last week. And Dave, somebody said you can't do, I think they said like a half a unit or something is going to land you back in jail. So just, half unit plays will put you back in jail, Dave. So don't forget that.
I don't know what that means.
Taking a look at everything here. Dave, whose bet do you like the best?
I think the way CO discussed the Jameis Winston prop and over 32.5 pass attempts was convincing. I love that Jackson Dart's not going to play. Obviously, that opens the door for Winston to have this opportunity. And I think Winston, just by nature of him having to throw a lot, I don't think the Giants run. The Giants run game was good last week because Quay Walker didn't play for Green Bay. That changed the whole tenor of the game. And so once he was out, the Giants were able to run. It brought down Winston's pass attempts. I don't think that's going to be the case this week. I could see Jameis throwing 37, 38 times.
I was going to say that was one of the plays I was going to write up. I think Mike Kafka knows that they have nothing to lose, so why not be aggressive throughout the whole game? So I'm certainly going to go over there. Sia, looking at this slate, what do you like the best?
Well, Claudia, I can't take one of yours because you threw the Derrick Henry thing in my face, and I feel like that was weeks of planning from you. Dave, I will go with, I love the TJ Hawkinson rationale. I thought that was, again, it's attached to JJ McCarthy, which doesn't make me super happy, but I do like that. I guess my favorite's probably Jonathan Taylor under 20.5 rushing attempts, but TJ Hawkinson a close second, and Claudia, we're fighting.
Frothy, it's fine. Whatever. We'll make up.
No.
I like the Ashton Genty over 15.5 rushing attempts. I think that's a sharp look. A lot of talk this week.
Yeah.
Getting him the football more. I definitely think while it's a difficult matchup from an efficiency standpoint, I thought Dave was smart to look at a volume-based approach here. So I like the Drake May look from Claudia as well, and I like the Adonai Mitchell look from Sia.
Sweet. Love spread all around. It's the holiday season, folks. Speaking of, we will not have a show next week because of Thanksgiving. So thanks for hanging out with us this week. We'll be back the following same time. So we're back to 3, or I should say we are moved to 3 o'clock now right here on the YouTube channel. Hope you'll enjoy Thanksgiving, and same to you guys. I'm sure I'll see you all, but load up on the stuffing. Turkey is very dry. At least got to get some cranberry sauce in there, right?
No, what are you talking about? Cranberry sauce is ridiculous.
Sorry, we don't have time for all that.
I love Thanksgiving. Real quick, wanted to mention, sorry to take over here. I will be in the Discord. Typically, I'm in the Discord, I believe at 1 p.m. or excuse me, 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be in the Discord starting at the conclusion of this show. So 4 p.m. Eastern today, hanging out. If you have any questions that didn't get answered there, please feel free to come in, drop me a line. I will also be in the Discord on Thanksgiving as well. So look forward to chatting with you.
I was going to say we didn't talk about this, but maybe because we're not having this show next week, maybe we can do something Discord related, or maybe even like Twitter Spaces related. We'll talk about it this week because obviously we've got the Thanksgiving games, but obviously a great slate next Sunday as well. So we'll figure something out, but Discord's is certainly a good opportunity for us to talk about next week's props as well.
Love that.
And see it quickly on the Splash Sports, just share that for anybody who doesn't know.
Yeah, splashsports.com/early edge. It's a free contest and there's $1,000 up for grabs. I think the top 3 or 4 get like 150, 100, but like, so there's like significant money at the top, but they pay the top 50. Either way, we did this last week. We got over 600 people in it. Right now, I think we're probably in the 400s or so, which is a little weird just because the people who registered last week, I mean, all you have to do is just go back into the app and register for this week. So if you did it last week, it's still free this week. So make sure you get in there. I'd love to get this thing higher than what we had last week. But again, it's splashsports.com/early edge, and it's the NFL Pick'em contest. All you got to do is pick all the week 12 games. One of those games you value at 2 versus 1. In other words, it's your favorite game. It'll take you maybe 30 to 60 seconds to sign up, I believe. It'll take you 30 to 60 seconds to put your picks in. And again, it's $1,000 up for grabs, and it's an absolutely free contest.
Claudia and Buckets kind of look like brother and sister as well.
Ooh, that's good.
Okay.
Yes.
He's a great looking guy. I'll take it. Also, I just want to let everybody know we had no power over whether or not we have a show. So that's not on us. But like the guy said, we'll get you guys covered in the Discord. So
yeah,
make sure to go check
I
it
will
figure
do
something
on
out.
Thursday, 10 a.m., 7 a.m. Pacific, SportsLine as well.
All right. There we go. As we always like to end the show with,
Let's
hit it big.